All right, folks, welcome back. We are back with our Fortinet NSE4 journey. So where we left off at, we finished and completed the theory section, right? The literature regarding routing, right? But, right, I would be remiss if I did not take care of showing you guys some labs of how it looks in a working environment and see how the theory actually applies in a practical setting. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to cover is RPF, right? So reverse proxy forwarding, right? And we want to make sure, right? And if we go ahead and we look at a reminder, right? Right? What's that RPF checker, right? It protects from IP spoofing attacks, right? And we have to make sure a couple of things. We have to make sure that we have a route to our source before we can pass traffic towards a destination. Okay. So RPF checks, it's well needed within most environments. Typically a lot of routers, right? Not even just firewall, but routers have it as well in the background, right? So just keep that in mind, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. And just to correct myself, it is not reverse proxy, it is reverse poof forwarding, okay? Reverse path forwarding, I'm sorry. All right, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this topology, right? So we have two firewalls, we have two switches, right? And we have 5 networks, right? For right now, we're just gonna have 3 networks. We have the 6.4.2.0, we have the 10.10.10.0/24, which is the LAN on the left. We have the 10.10.11.0/24 on the right, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and configure, right, our networks right here. So let's go ahead and do so. All right. So on Fortigate 1, let's go ahead and, if I'm not mistaken, let's go ahead and add this here. All right. Keep it all on 1. So port 2 is going to be our WAN. All right. Let's go ahead and configure that. And we're going to do the 6.4.2.1, our favorite. We're going to enable pings. That's all we need, right? And we're going to click OK, right? On our land, we have a 10.10.10.10, right? Right. All right. And let's go ahead and enable a DHCP server. This is going to be very important of what I show you, okay? And let's make it real short. All right. Right. We're configuring our interfaces, right? Configuring DHCP. Let's put in our policy in place. Make sure we have that northbound policy, right? We have that implicit deny, right? That's on any ACL/firewall. Let's go ahead and create that northbound. Okay. Port 3, going to port 2, right? And we're going to do all, we're going to do all, we're going to do all, right? We don't need to put any UTMs. We're perfectly fine. Okay. There we go. All right, and let's do the same over here, okay? We may have to go back and do some, set some routes, but we'll go ahead and do that, right? So, go ahead and do this. We have, all right, 6.4.2.2. All right, is it this one? Yes. 55.25.0, right? Set the ping, okay? And we're good to go. All right, let's do the same thing on the LAN, and that was 10.10.11.0. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, 10.10.11. 1. There we go. I'm going to set up the ping, right? DHCP server, right? We're going to do 100, right? To 150, right? DNS server. I'm going to go ahead and set that, right? Make sure all that is fine. Excellent. Okay, so we're good to go, right? Let's go ahead and do some routing, right? Let's go over here so we can learn about its networks, right? Give it a router ID, okay? Area 0, cool, excellent, right? And we're going to share the networks that we currently have live interfaces on, okay? Okay, we're going to do the same thing, right? Area 0, right? And this is, that should be 10.10.10.0. There we go. Okay, and we're done, right? We have that set. We're going to do the same thing here. Okay, area 0. We're good. And let's do the same thing. All right, 10.10.11.0. Okay, and we're going to do, of course, the wide area network. Just for this lab, by the way. And let's go ahead and apply it, right? So with that being said, now we should see routes, right? We should see routes. We should know how to get to our networks. Boom, right? Right, so I see some routes. It should take a while. There we go, right? So we know how to get to the 10.10.10.11 from Fortigate 1, right? We know where to send it, right? And vice versa, right? If we go ahead and check Fortigate 2, know how to get there. I know how to get to the 10.10.10.10, right? I know about all of that, okay? So 5 routes in total, okay? This is our topology. So if I turn on these PCs, one, if I do DHCP, they should get an IP address, okay? And if I try to ping each of these PCs, try to ping each other, it should work, right? And let's make sure we, on FortiGate 2, I'm not sure if we put a firewall policy in place. We do need that. We did not. So let's go ahead and make sure we take care of that. Okay. Okay. All right, excellent. So we got that in place. We're taken care of, right? So let's go ahead and check this, right? And what I expect for PC5 is to get an IP address, right, in the 10.10.10.10 network. Okay. All right, so we see that DORA process happening. All right, excellent. So it gets an IP address. Perfect. Right? And let's do the same thing, PC6. Okay, DHCP. Excellent. So what we're going to do, right? I'm going to try to ping PC6. Okay, so that's 10.10.11.100. All right. Okay, I should have. Let's take a look and make sure I do have that firewall policy here. Ah, there we go. We should turn that off, right? Typically, it'll work, but I need to go ahead and turn that off. And I need to turn that off as well. There we go. And that should work. Let's take a look. Let's troubleshoot a little bit. So PC5, hanging off of this one. Let's take a look at some logs. Let's show matching logs. There we go. All right, let's check this one. There we go. All right. All right, let's take a look as to why that's not working. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and set that policy. So typically you wouldn't need a southbound policy, but let's go ahead and put that in place. Two sites, typically they need to communicate with each other. We would just go ahead and have an IPsec tunnel. So it's all good. All right, but again, keep in mind, guys, this is just a small lab. So we're just modifying this just for the lab, okay? All right, there we go. So we got that in place. Let's do the same thing, okay? There we go. There we go. All right. All right, so now what I expect, there we go. All right, so we got traffic flowing, okay? All is good, right? So let's examine this. Let's examine why it's working, right? And this is speaking on the topic of reverse path forwarding, right? The reason why, right, Fortigate 1, right, is able to send those pings, right? And those pings are able to return, right? Remember what we talked about as far as reverse path forwarding. What the router is going to do, right, is look up first and see if I have a route back to that source. Okay, do I have a route back to 10.10.10.10? Okay, that is a critical piece in reverse path forwarding. It needs to make sure it has a route back to the source. If it does not, okay, and I haven't even got as deep as to talking about the different methods between strict and loose, but by default, if it does not have a path, right? And let's say we're using the default method, which is loose. If it does not have a path back to the source, it will not send traffic at all, right? So how can we test this, right? How can we go ahead and see if that is truly the case? Well, let's go ahead and do some segmentation of our network, okay? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shut this off, and we're going to go ahead and segment our network right about here, okay? So I'm going to get in this switch, what is it, switch 3? And we're going to do some configuration, all right? I'm going to create another VLAN, create another broadcast domain, right? So we'll call it VLAN 12, right? Name, let's not get a name, let's get that deep. Now let's create the layer 3 instance, right? And we're going to say IP address 10.10.12.1, okay? All right, 55.55.0. Shut. Okay. All right. And of course, going to do some routing. We need to make sure we configure that as well. Okay. So I need to create a layer 3 instance for VLAN 1, right? So we can do that inter VLAN routing. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2. Okay. Shut. Okay. All right. Route. Right. 10.10.10. Right. We're going to do 1, right? And that's our firewall. Okay. So let's go ahead and test it, right? And then ping my gateway. Take a look and see what's going on. Let's make sure that I have pings enabled. 0.3. Okay, there we go. We're looking good there. Let's go back to switch 3. All right. Show VLAN brief. Take a look at it. There we go. All right. All right, so we should be good there. It's VLAN 1. Shutdown. Let's configure IP routing. All right. And let's do interface gig 0/ believe it's 0. Yes, it is 0. So let's go ahead and configure that. Switch port access VLAN 12. Oops. There we go. All right. There we go. All right. So now let's do some testing. So now if we ping source VLAN 1, if we see some traffic, see what's going on. All right. Let's take a look at that. Let's troubleshoot for a little bit. Okay. Packet captures. See what's going on. All right. All right. Good. Oh. 10.10.10.2. There we go. See if we see some packets. And a lot of time, guys, it is all it takes is just a VM restarting or whatnot. All right, so we see packets. There we go. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's pull up our Wireshark. Okay, all right, so we see pings, right? It's going, but we're not getting responses. So, but of course we see the VM up. Let's go ahead and do a slight reboot, see what's going on. Sometimes it needs that. Let's go ahead. There we go. All right. Do the same thing over here. There we go. But yeah, while that reboots, right, what do we expect to happen, right? We're essentially, right, creating a separate broadcast domain from a routing standpoint that the Fortigate will not know about, okay? So we need to see where, first we're going to test to see if the network that it does know about, and we're talking about Fortigate 1 here, 10.10.10.10, if it knows, okay, if it knows how to get to, right, VLAN 1, right? Because that's where the other instance of 10.10.10 is, right? And so once we do that, right? We're going to see if, once we configure PC5 with a 10.10.12.0/24 network, if it can go ahead and reach, right, PC6 with the reverse path forwarding setting of default. Okay, so let's go ahead and check on our firewall, see how they're looking, right? Okay, so they're still booting up. You guys can't see my screen, but they are booting up. Let's give it a while. Okay, looks like Fortigate 1 is up. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead, log in. All right, let's make sure OSPF is in place. All right, they're probably still doing the OSPF negotiations. So let's give it a while. Let's give it a second. Okay. All right, so we're gonna wait here. Hopefully they begin communicating. Didn't take that long. They're on the same broadcast domain. Let's go ahead. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right, so we got that in place, right? If we refresh that one, there we go. All right. All right, so we're good to go. All right, so let's see if the reboot fixed it, right? So if we go to switch 3. Yeah, let's check our config, right? Make sure we have IP routing configured. All right. We have a default route. Awesome. Now let's check our routing table. Amazing. All right, so we have one network for that and one network for that. All right, so let's see what's happening. Gigabit 0/1. Why are they not working? Let's take a look. Execute. Oh, okay, so pings work. All right, so let's test it this way. I'm not sure why pings are not. Oh, that's why. We got pings disabled here. There we go. All right, so little old me getting older my age. So we go to switch 3, right? Try to ping, right? We get that, right? So that works. What happens if I try to, and let's go ahead and clean up this, all right? Right, right. So VLAN 1, 10.10.10.0, I'm able to ping. It works, right? Well, let's see another thing, right? What happens if I try to ping PC6? That works, okay? Now here's where the RPF is gonna come in. We have VLAN 12. Let's see if it works. Okay, so we're getting failures, right? let's see where it's failing, right? Let's go ahead and do a packet capture. Okay. So let's do the LAN. And let's do the 10.10.12.1. Okay. And let's go ahead and do the capture. All right. And let's try this again. Okay, so we're getting packets, all right? Packets are leaving the switch. Okay. All right. So success rate of 0%, right? All right. And so we see, right, it's hitting the local area network, right? Let's go ahead and stop this packet capture. Let's create a new one. Let's see if it's traversing, right, the interface, right? If it's actually leaving. So let's do 10.10.12.1, right? Which is the outside interface. So let's run this. And let's go ahead and run another thing. Nothing. No package traversing. Okay. Let's do it again. Again, I want you guys to look at the packet capture for interface port 2 to see if the packets increase. Okay. So guys, just like we spoke about, right? If we come back to the PowerPoint, right? What the RPF check is doing is if in its routing table, if it doesn't have an active route back to the source, for this lab it being 10.10.12.1, it is not going to pass that traffic, no matter if it's coming from inside. And as you guys saw with our packet capture, we saw that traffic coming from inside, okay? That is reverse path forwarding. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good. All right, guys. Well, tomorrow we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a little bit more of reverse path forwarding, but we're going to throw in ECMP as well. Okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, guys. You have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Bye.